Welcome to the Fossil Fundamentals podcast, brought to you by fossilsuk.com. I'm Byron, paleontologist, geologist, and lifelong fossil hunter. And in this show, we sit down with collectors, experts, and adventurers to uncover the real stories behind the fossils. Welcome to another episode of Fossil Fundamentals podcast by Fossils UK. Real fossil hunters, real discoveries, real stories. Today's guest is someone you've probably seen on YouTube, sharing his finds and his adventures. He is living the fossil hunting life. Today I'm joined by Fossiliferous Matt. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, and appreciate being here. Thank you very much, Byron.
Yeah, no worries. Right, let's go straight into it and give a bit of background to who you are and what you do, and how did you get into fossil hunting?
Yeah, well, definitely. So I'm probably a late bloomer in some ways, as are many actually into fossils. So as a kid, I did pick up the odd fossil, but I was never into dinosaurs and never really into like fossil hunting side of it. But what I did do, so I've got some Polish heritage, and my granddad used to take me mushroom hunting for porcini mushrooms.
Yeah.
So the finding, hunter gathering thing, it was already there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, with my grandfather, it's actually going finding cockles at Cleethorpes.
Yeah.
So it's very, very similar.
I think it's a common theme, isn't it? So, you know, if you're a fossil hunter, quite often you've done a bit of fishing, which I also do. So my dad likes his fishing, and I've done a fair bit of fishing as well in the past. Metal detecting, I've never really done that, but I know a lot of people that do like the metal detecting.
That's very, very common as well.
Yeah, and it's that kind of, I don't know, I think it definitely appeals to people's schema if they like going out and finding stuff, and you know, that primeval hunter gathering. You know, it's like going out and finding something. It might not be today's dinner, but actually, you know, going out and discovering things, it definitely is something that gets people motivated, myself included. So yeah, never into fossils massively as a young child, and dinosaurs and various stuff, and then ended up doing music for 20 plus years as my main hobby. So I was in a metal band for 22, 23 years, and again that was touring all over.
Might come back to that later.
Yeah. So again, it kind of forms a story, because it's kind of what I want to do with Fossiliferous is getting out and about on the travel. And yeah, so I actually started getting into the Yorkshire coast fossiling probably be around 2017, 2018. And it was actually John Koza, a fellow YouTuber at the time, who was putting out Yorkshire fossil hunting videos. And I never realised that this was out there on the doorstep. It was totally unknown to me. And mentioned the heavy metal. So his first ever video.
Yeah, he loves John. I know John very well, and he loves his gigs and his heavy metal. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, his first video had some really obscure black metal band soundtrack on it, which is probably why it found its way to me, because at that time I was into some of the really heavy stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's quite a good soundtrack. This is banging. What's he doing? No, he's fossil hunting. And started really watching his videos. And at the time, he was the only one really putting Yorkshire fossil hunting videos out there. And he used to follow their adventures every month. In fact, I couldn't wait for the next one to come out. It's like, okay, this is good stuff.
Absolutely,
I'm really enjoying that. And then it was time to sort of do that myself at the time.
But before you got onto come onto the YouTube channel in a little while, but first of all, it was just mainly just going out on your own and fossil hunting first of all, and looking for fossils.
Yeah, a couple of family holidays to the coast. It was like, well, I know where I want to go for a bit of a local destination, a couple of hours away from myself. And obviously the first one was a total failure. Took the kids to Brunswick Bay and had a little look round, didn't walk far enough, didn't really know what to look for, but found a few little bits, you know, and then actually had a week in Whitby, probably around 2018, and we were just basically at the foot of East Cliff, just down the ramp, where I think a lot of people find fossils unexpectedly, and managed to get my first first fossil, basically, first full one. Nice little
So
Perrinoceros.
your first one would have been a nodule, a Dactylosteros nodule, with the classic kind of burger in a bun kind of
Yeah, a little bit
nodule.
poking out. Yeah,
Yeah, a little
basically.
bit
So,
poking out, and
yeah,
that's really how you find most of the fossils, isn't it? You always see part of it poking out out the rock to begin with, and then you cracked it open, and a nice perfect one
well,
inside.
actually, I knew it was. I knew there was something inside, and my first one, I wasn't going to spoil it. So
Oh, okay,
that
yeah,
one
yeah,
actually went. It actually went to Stone Treasures actually. So Mark Hawkes actually did the first one for me, and prepped it for me, and yeah, so I've still got it on the shelf, on the Yorkshire section, which is that way.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's actually a Perrinoceros. I thought it was a DAC for quite a few years until
yeah.
actually I learned
Had
better.
little spines
Yeah, yeah.
on the
Well, actually,
venter
it's
that
it's not got the spines on, so yeah, it's got the well, the very faintest of spines that you can see.
all right.
So
So
yeah,
probably a turriculatum then, probably.
yeah,
Which is the
absolutely.
type of species that one will be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was your first proper find,
Yeah,
and then from then on, you were basically hooked
yeah.
on
Well, I
going out
think
and looking as often and as much as you could.
yeah. So I didn't really get opportunity for a few years. So young kids, and it's probably after lockdown where lots of things changed. Um,
For a lot of people,
Yeah,
including
yeah. So
myself.
I know I'm not alone in there's
Yeah,
lots of people out there who really picked up the hobby after lockdown. Um, so yeah, a lot of things changed for myself, and I have sort of every other weekend free now, which is great for fossil hunting, and I can plan stuff around that.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that was the opportunity to say, right, I wanna get into fossil hunting. So yeah, I started going on the Holderness to Mappleton, a little bit up north, Saltwick Bay, the usual places people go to for the first time.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and it took quite a long time actually to, pick up the basics and
Yes,
understand what to
yeah,
look for, especially the
yeah.
Holderness.
There is quite a lot of uh, like I said, YouTube videos and things like that that people can watch to
There
get
is
that
now.
kind of information. Well, there certainly is now, yeah. But back then there probably wasn't as much.
No.
But but then one thing that can't give you is actually practical experience out in the field, can it? Really? So that's really where particularly your videos have started coming through is it's showing that kind of practical experience that what to look for, what not to look for, and it does take time to get that.
It does, and I think one of the things that's helped me is that I'm not limited to the Yorkshire coast. So a lot of
No,
people who
no,
do videos seem to stick to one area. Well,
that's right,
I'm
that's
not
correct.
about
Yeah,
that, and that's part of the travel aspect. From when I did the band, we toured all over the world. So I'm trying to get contacts, and the reason why I started the channel actually was all around building up contacts and networks. It's quite
yeah,
difficult
yeah.
with fossiling because people tend to keep the locations secret and to themselves
They
a
do,
little
they
bit.
do. But I think back in the good old days before, really before the internet. I mean, we're old enough to know a period of time when there was no such thing as the internet. If we needed to know anything about fossils, we had to go to something called a library and pick up a book, and that would then point us in the right direction to where to go. But yeah, I mean, it's now with the onset of the internet, it's um, global. And before the internet, there used to be a lot of like fossil clubs and geological
Yeah.
clubs and um, lipidary clubs and things like that, which has have waned over the years,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, one of the things that I've definitely noticed is that in the European countries where we've got fossils, certainly France, the clubs
Yes,
are very much alive.
yes,
Um,
and Germany.
and
Yeah,
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 and the difficulty we have not having the sort of same sort of clubs because the clubs and the associations tend to be very formal in our country. And
yes, yeah,
yes, they'll do some days out and various stuff, and some are very good. I did a very good one with the Yorkshire Society. Paul Hildreth did
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah,
session at Middlegate Quarry a few years ago.
yeah,
Absolutely
yeah,
fantastic day. So they do a fantastic job, but we lack the amateur sort of societies. And I think
Yes. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happens is we do form off into little clans a little bit. And certainly,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's people in my network where all over the country where you meet people and you get friendly with them. YouTube for me is kind of a bit of extra for that because it's putting yourself out there because you meet other YouTubers, do collaborations,
Yeah. Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
the name out there a little bit. But really,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the thing. It's about meeting people. Um, I don't go to the fossil shows particularly. I'm not a seller. I'm not a trader. I'm an amateur collector,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get to meet people that way. But
Yeah, I mean,
perhaps I
there
should
is
go more often.
different avenues, isn't there, that people come into the hobby, and that's exactly one of them. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like I say, I think that this country we have got there are informal networks where people know each other. But
Yes.
there's
Yeah. Yeah.
again, and we've talked about this as our group, looking at do we try and formalize it in some sort of,
Yes.
association or society or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the problem is as soon as you start going down that route, you've got to have, various things in place to be able to do
Yes.
it. It's not as
Unfortunately, yeah.
simple as you
No.
would
No.
expect.
No. 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 And to be fair, I think a lot of, from my experience, a lot of the major shows that I go to um, were originally set up as the club show. It's
Yeah.
the classic. I suppose it's the classic detectorist kind of. If anybody's seen that comedy
I
series,
have. It's fantastic.
where they hire out a hall and they have a table of finds out there.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. Um, and they've just grown and grown and grown to the big shows that they are now. Yeah, I mean, what made you start sharing your finds on social media? Was it just that the fact that the
Well,
community, or
so John actually stopped doing his videos.
right? Okay, yeah.
And that's what got me into the hobby. And obviously, being in a metal band before, I used to do all the promotion, social
Oh,
media
right.
side of
Okay,
it. So
yeah.
I'm used to doing it. Um, and it was kind of a bit of an experiment, really. I thought I'll give this a little go and just, see how it goes. And not really expecting it to get anywhere, really. Not that it has now, to be fair, but gets the name around. And yeah, it's what I'm comfortable with doing a bit of social media. And I just thought, right, I'll give it a go, see how it goes. And it was that. It was about, it might help just to develop some contacts and escape a bit further afield because as good as the Yorkshire coast is, and it is a fascinating coastline, sometimes a bit of variety is good going somewhere else. And what I have found is by doing other areas, you realize how variable things are and the different
Absolutely,
preservations and the
absolutely,
different, the different ways fossils present. So you get, I
absolutely.
think, more of a broad depth of knowledge looking at these other
Yeah,
areas that,
you see a lot of people who I think to a certain extent we're quite spoilt on the Yorkshire coast because we can go on the beach and find something. There's lots of beaches that I've gone on before, particularly in Dorset as well, where I found nothing
oh,
and gone back and found nothing and gone back and found nothing.
yeah,
There's fossils there, but they are preserved in a different way. They don't just hit it with a hammer and out they pop. Most of the fossils that I know of, probably 98% of the fossils that I know of, are in hard rock. That if you went anywhere near them with a hammer, they will be obliterated. So you have to take them back as they are. I mean, there's lots of locations out there. Um, in England, we're kind of more or less now relegated to coastal sections because obviously you need to have permission, landowner permission to go to some of the quarries and things like that, which was easier back in the day, but now is more problematical. But going on organised tours, geological association tours and what have you, is probably the way forward with that. So yeah, I mean, locations all over the world to choose from. I my friends always keep asking me to go to like Wyoming, having a look at the
the
fossil fish in
Dakotas where it's
Wyoming.
at. I like some of the stuff in the
Uh,
Dakotas. There's some fantastic
yeah, yeah,
ectomorph ammonites
absolutely.
and
Dinosaur
yeah,
digging.
yeah,
Um, Over to Morocco is the next stage for me. Is going over there and seeing the locations there. That would be fantastic, and a fantastic country as well.
yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, you've gone all over the world. You've gone, well, you've gone to France. You've been to,
Well, fossiling wise, yes,
yeah,
fossiling
fossiling
wise
wise.
at the
That's what I
moment,
mean. Yeah,
France. So we've made
yeah,
3 visits. Well, 2 visits to France. Shortly, it's going to be the 3rd visit. So
yeah,
in a few days, we're off back over to Normandy. Again, fossiling inland, it's not easy to do. Getting permissions is very difficult, and I think you do need to have a certain reputation about how you're going to, conduct yourself in these
yes.
places to get that trust. But we got invited back to go to the Roche Blaine quarry, and this time we've got a couple of days there, so we'll have a lot
So
more time to
what kind of
actually
things do you find in that
explore.
particular quarry? For those who
Yeah,
don't
so
know,
Roche Blaine is it's quite a big quarry actually. In fact, it's huge, but most of the layers are from the Pliens Bachian into the Tuarcian. Um,
so lower Jurassic in age,
yeah, so the most common ammonites it's famed for are Canthropleroceras. So quite a lot of those come out of there, but you can find some really good examples of Lithoceras, big ones as well, very big ones. Quite rare to find, but again, amazing preservation. Last time I got a interesting Liperoceras heptangulaire, which is again quite interesting. There's Nautilus. Um,
which is the species you actually found on our coastline as well.
Yeah, yeah. So lots and lots of different ammonites. I don't think it's famed for reptile bone, although I'm sure there must be stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the preservation, it's not. I don't think it's renowned for that kind of thing because it's quite a high. The grain size is quite high, so
It,
any bone in there tends to get a bit abraded away and
yeah,
broken.
yeah. It's quite oolitey. There's a
Yeah,
lot of the
it's a
layers.
high energy environment, I
Yeah.
believe.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting just to have a proper poke around because we got a little bit of time in the lower levels, and it's weird. It's on a bit of an anticline, is the quarry. So as you go lower, it gets younger.
Yeah,
Which is very
yeah,
strange because you're up here
yeah.
collecting
It's
a
weird. It is.
Cantaloupe or so over this side somewhere, and then you
Yeah,
go down this hill and, and suddenly collecting
it's one of
grammos.
those things in geology really that always fascinates me. You're talking older and you're talking younger, but it's actually all old. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I find the I'm sure anyone who's watched my channel knows I find the stratigraphy really fascinating because I want to know where something comes from, and I want to know what the age is, and I also want to know what you can find with it. So
yeah,
you get a certain age of ammonite. It's like, oh, what's associated with these then? And
yeah,
that way you
yeah.
kind of learn, what. And the weird, I mean, one of the weird things with ammonites is that they seem to re-evolve the same shapes over and over again. Because you always have a
That's
fat
right.
one, you always have a thin one, you always have
Yeah,
something in
yeah.
between.
Yeah,
Um,
which is probably the paleoecology. You know, they always think that the smoother the ammonite is, the more faster swimmer it was,
yeah.
whereas the more bulbous ones were more like a bottom warting, like a cow on a field,
Well, yeah,
that kind of thing,
yeah,
really. So you know, like the cadossa is the big bulby ones, but
yeah.
all like ammonites tend would have been a very very slow swimmer. So they would have just been grazing along the seabed probably. Whereas like the Phylloceras and things like that were faster swimmers and more likely to be
Carnivores.
carnivorous
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Yeah, yeah. It is fascinating because obviously the sequences can be very very critical in identifying things, and everybody says, yeah, how do you know that is what it is? Because obviously we look at the rock strata, we narrow it down with what it could be in that particular age. So if it's older than that, it can't be these type of ammonites or these kind of fossils. Um,
yeah. So I think again, I quite like to look at some of the papers and some of the history behind. Quite fascinates me as well. Some of the history around the finds and the discoveries. I think it was Appel who first proposed ammonites as a dating tool, because again, they just neatly mark out units of time approximately every 200,000 years, don't they? Something like that, I think it
yes,
was.
yeah, yeah.
And it amazes me that the humble duck. We have the humble duck in Yorkshire. It should be the bloody flag of Whitby, shouldn't it? Really.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's in the coat of arms,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's
well,
got in the coat of arms.
yeah.
So,
So it should
but yeah, I mean, certain fossils are great for biostratigraphy. So effectively, if you find, say, a Dactylioceras in a piece of rock that's miles away from here, miles away from Whitby, miles away from Yorkshire, you know that if it's that particular species, you know that it's that kind of age. So they are particularly, I believe they're called. I can't remember quite the name I'm looking for at the minute. I think they're called golden spikes or something like that. I think they're particularly known for datum points. So like for instance, you don't get dinosaurs in Carboniferous rock.
yeah, yeah,
They just don't occur because they didn't evolve until a certain time period. So if you stacked all the rock on top of each other throughout history, then you find only certain fossils in certain time periods. So you can narrow it down to being a certain particular number of, like 10 number of ammonites that occur in that particular zone, and then you go to the books and get the manuscripts out and you look at the line drawings that people did back in the day and go, right, which one is it? And it's probably this one.
yeah,
And that's basically like almost like a fossil detective, aren't you? Really looking at
yeah. It's an
find what it is.
investigation. Yeah, like I say, to talk about the humble Dactylioceras, and it amazes me that obviously Whitby, the most common ammonite you find, but then you can go to Scotland and there's Dactylioceras. You can go to Dorset, there's Dactylioceras. Go
That's
to
right.
France, there's Dactylioceras. You go to Germany, there's Dactylioceras.
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
common ammonite, but with
Yeah.
worldwide almost availability in different preservations, and that again they're all different colours. So you can go have a nice
Yeah.
orange one
Which
from
which would have
Germany, or
been
a nice.
which would have been the local ecology or climatology at that time. That's why they're all different colours, and
Yeah, yeah.
the minerals and that were around when it got deposited would have made those different colours.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I say you can get a nice pink one from Dorset, or a nice yellow one
Yeah,
from Ilminster. And
yeah,
again, that it's interesting to see that they're in different places. And like you say, you then you start going down the rabbit hole a little bit with the science. Because then you start looking at, actually, this is biostratigraphy. Then you can start looking at lithostratigraphy, which is the different
yeah,
rock beds rather than
yeah,
the different fauna.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, there's loads to
And
learn.
certain fauna go across those lithographic boundaries as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So there's loads to learn. So
Yeah.
I think as a hobby, it's not one dimensional. It's not just about going to the beach and finding stuff. It can be, if that's what you want it to
Yes.
be. It can be,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But there is a whole other world out there of learning, of scientific study,
Absolutely.
and in terms of yes, some of it's collecting and having a lovely ornament on the shelf, but the other side of it is that study, and that again, increasing your knowledge about what actually
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
for
Well,
me,
I know an awful lot of amateur collectors that probably know a lot more than some academics in certain areas.
yeah,
Like I mean, the classic example, it was Steve Etchers. He was an amateur collector and had a fantastic collection of Kimmeridge clay fossils, and made those available to research. And now he now has the Etchers Fossil Museum down in Dorset, which houses his collection.
yeah.
Um,
I think there's a lot of probably quite prominent people who have never really been attached to universities, but are very clever. So a
yes.
friend, of myself and the group that I tend to work with, John Witcher, written loads of
Yeah.
papers on the
Yeah.
Bajortian.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
it's not his profession; it's something that he's done, part of the Wessex Cephalopod Club over many
That's correct.
years,
Yeah.
and written loads of papers on Lithoceras and all sorts of stuff. And you read some of his papers, and it's like, wow, the
Yeah. Yeah.
study that's
Yeah.
gone into this is amazing. So
Yeah.
a lot of
Labour of
people
love.
aren't always professors,
No.
but
No.
quite often you'll find that actually, yeah, it's amateurs that have put quite a lot of the groundwork in. One of the things that it's quite interesting actually. So we're talking about the France trip. So this might be the last opportunity that I get to actually collect at Vache Noire in Normandy.
Okay.
So the French authorities are bringing in a decree which
Right.
may actually stop all collecting of fossils on that beach. In fact, most of the
Right.
Normandy coast. There's already some in a bit further south at the Bajocian area, the St Honorine des Perts, and obviously Bayeux is the type locality for the Bajocian.
You've been all over the world, looking at all different locations. You know, not all over the world, but you've been to some special locations.
Trying to.
Where would you say is your favourite place to hunt the fossils?
You see, it's quite hard because some of the locations are fantastic, and yeah,
they're all different. They're all different,
they
and
are.
they all have different things in them. For
They
a start,
have. So, I mean, the Yorkshire coast, you know, is always a favourite, and places like Ravenscar, yeah, always good. Brunswick Bay, again,
yeah,
you know, I go there probably more often than not because they're just interesting locations, and you always find something interesting. But in terms of, I'd probably stick to Britain. One of the most interesting places I find, even though it is the most dangerous, is Burton Bradstock.
yes, yeah. I mean, you've got at Burton, you have to be very, very
You
careful
do, yeah,
of rock cliff falls there.
you do,
Yeah,
because the
but I
cliff
mean,
falls are
well,
catastrophic.
any time you go out anywhere on the beach, you have to be very, very careful of the cliff falls. And to be fair, all the best fossils I've ever found have always been in loose pebbles on the beach, well away from the cliff face.
Oh, the pebbles at Burton Bradstock
Are the size of a
a
house.
small pebble, yeah, as my friends sometimes describe them. So, yeah, so when they come down, they can do a lot of damage, and there has been a
Yes, yeah,
fatality there in
and there's
2012.
been
So you have to be
yeah,
very, very careful. But in terms of the interest, it's the only sort of coastal Bajocian exposure really in England. There are others in various other places, but certainly Burton has a very wide variety of fossils, which are
yeah. I
unusual.
mean, I personally like the diversity in the fossils there. I not just the ammonites, but I sometimes I like collecting areas where they have things that were contemporary with the ammonites.
Yeah,
So like gastropods
yeah,
and
some good
shells
gastropods.
and bone and sea lilies and all that kind of thing that was obviously living at the same time as and for me that kind of captures the ecology more from and the fascination. I can picture it better in my mind of those things swimming around. Whereas if you just get one particular location that's just got one particular fossil in,
Yeah,
I
well, I
don't
mean,
think you get that much of a snapshot.
yeah, I mean that's sometimes the case with the Yorkshire coast. It's how many ducks do you really want to collect? Because yeah, you go there for other things, but after a while, it's like, I mean, there's nothing like picking a good one up. But sometimes it's like another duck, another duck,
Yeah,
another duck.
yeah. So you'd say Burton Bradstock's your favourite
Yeah, and like I
location?
say, I think I've always had it reasonably tough there. I've never been sort of, there's been a freshest fall. I really do hope one day I'll come and there'll be a fresh fall, but not when I'm there. Uh,
No, no,
Not when I'm
no,
there, definitely not. But
no.
again, just to see it come down fresh with all the potential that can be there, because the layers split so good. And if you're first to the fall, well, you get to see all sorts of wonderful things coming out of those blocks. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, but not
yeah.
while you're there. Never
No,
while you're
no.
there, because it is a dangerous place.
No, no. I mean, my favorite. I think my favorite location again is British Isles. Uh, Strangely enough, it's not actually Yorkshire. Um, but actually, one of my favorite locations is Gilwern Hill in
So yeah,
mid Wales, where you can rent a shepherd's hut, and it comes with a quarry,
yeah,
and the quarry is full of trilobites, and that location itself. I've been there when it's been uh, going up through my waterproofs, like not actually coming down from the sky, but actually physically going up. Um, but then I've been there when it's been the place to be in God's earth.
yeah,
You know, the panorama is fantastic. The sun's beating down, and
yeah.
I would
Well,
say, I would say Valhalla, mate. I would say Valhalla.
I've got to say it to all you southerners that are watching down there, is that you've got it better than us northerners, because your cliffs at least face the right way, so the sun comes out and you get a suntan. Whereas in Yorkshire, we're
Yes. Yeah.
perpetually pallid because
Yeah.
we're in the
Yeah.
shadow of the cliff
Every time I go
continuously.
down to Dorset, I'm always like too hot.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
we're it's
t-shirt
like
weather
it's like Games of
in
Thrones, isn't
February.
it? Where we're like on the wall, on the frozen wall, and we go anywhere south, and we're like, sunshine. What's this?
Well, I was going to say it won't be the first time in winter when I've been just wearing a t-shirt on a Dorset beach and it's been 15 degrees and I've been sweating away, going like, "Wow,
Absolutely.
this
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
no
Yeah.
no 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 wonder people retire down here, because it's
Yeah. Yeah.
the place to
Absolutely.
be sometimes."
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um, are there any locations that you think are underrated?
Oh, underrated. Oh,
You probably already answered that with Burton Bradstone because of
well,
there's so much
it,
different stuff you can find
it
there,
all
isn't there?
depends on what you want. That's the thing. So,
Yeah.
places like if you look at Dorset, places like Eat don't get
Yeah.
visited very often, and there's some amazing
Yeah.
fossils there.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, they're all quite tough to prepare, but if you get a good one, and I've been quite lucky with the Lithoceras over the last few months, there's some amazing stuff down there, but not just Lithoceras, Amaltheus, you can get rare gastropods, get Nautilus, all sorts in there. So, again,
Yeah.
there's lots of locations like that, though, because people go
Yeah,
to
I
the
think the
places that
Dorset
are
coast is
advertised.
really quite good because in such a small area, you could have quite a variety of different ages and
Yeah,
different types of rock
yeah.
and different types of fossils in such a small area. Where obviously in the Yorkshire coast, it's quite a long stretch coastline, but it's
It
very
is.
kind of I'd say amorphous, but that's not the right word I'm looking for. And I wouldn't say boring either. But we
It's
have
certainly
the
not
Carthian.
homogeneous, is it? It's
Yeah.
we've got, I mean, everything in Yorkshire. We've got everything from the Hatangian up in Redcar, if you class that as Yorkshire. Some do, some don't.
Well,
All the way through
technically
to
it is
Cretaceous
Yorkshire,
rocks.
but some would say not.
Yeah, so all the way through to Cretaceous rocks at Flamborough. So
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then everything in between is going to be
yeah,
represented on the Holderness. So
yeah, yeah,
we've got a
yeah,
good variety, and even where the rocks aren't well preserved in Yorkshire, because there are sections, certainly Robin Hood's Bay, where the preservation's terrible. But what you
yeah,
find
yeah,
is stuff washes up on the Holderness in perfect preservation, which probably means it was transported from Doggerland or a different area where it has actually preserved quite well.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, Yorkshire, we're very, very lucky. So I mean, there's loads of places that I would say are underrated. I mean, you could look at the Somerset coast again. There's loads
yeah,
of
yeah,
blue lias
yeah,
there. It
yeah,
all depends on what you want to find. So some people will be very, specialized in their collecting. So some people do only collect Yorkshire stuff, and they'll only collect a certain age. Collecting's all around, what you want it to be. So I try and collect something from everywhere, making a broad collection. So you've got an example. Okay, well, I've got some Colovian Ammonites. There you go. Or I've got some Cinnamurian Ammonites. It's a case of I do have a few other bits. I generally stick to Ammonites because that's my interest. But yeah, it's a case of what do you want? Some areas they'll be underrated, but they might be the only place where you can get a particular type of
yeah,
fossil.
yeah, yeah.
So that's where you go. Whether you find anything or not,
Yeah.
you don't know.
Well,
There you go.
that comes to my next question. Really, if there was one location you'd go to that you've never collected before, where would it be? Do you think?
Oh, I've never collected. Oh, there's loads. There's a list a
There's
mile
loads.
long.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, some of the long gone locations, they're
yeah,
the ones where you
yeah,
think, oh, I wish I'd have been there at
yeah,
that time and had
yeah,
the
yeah,
contacts to go do that, because
yeah,
you
yeah,
do hear some of the stories of roads being built. I mean, one of the problems we've
yeah.
got in Yorkshire, no, in Yorkshire, in England, is that we don't seem to build anything much anymore. I mean, look
No.
at HS2. I mean, that's going through prime fossil land. And I know there
Yes.
is some people that have got permission to look at that, etc., etc. But we don't do that at scale, and that's what you need to find fossils. So when you start reading these old papers,
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
God, you
A
had it
lot of them
so
are
good.
temporary exposures, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, because you think, well, even if you look at the Joint Nature Conservation papers, which are fantastic. The Stratigraphy of the British Isles,
Yeah.
all the old locations, and you can see them all, and it's like,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, but back in the day, you could do some wonderful science, and when you could
Yeah.
actually get into quarries without too much hassle, you knock on the
Yeah.
door and go, can we have a look? Yeah, no problem,
Yeah.
lads.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's very much full PPE, health and safety after you've
That's
begged
right.
people
That's right.
to let you in. But yeah, anywhere in the world, I think I would like to have a look at some of the areas in America. Not I quite like the look of the plants. It's the Pierre
Oh,
Shale
yeah.
formation.
Yeah.
That looks amazing.
Bearport Formation, I think it
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
not so much when you start getting into Alberta and the Ammonites, because they're always
Yeah.
crushed and they might look beautiful, but to be honest, to me it just looks like a crushed
Yeah.
Ammonite. But when you
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
really nice Placentiferous Miki, where all the
Yeah.
suture lines are, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
morphologically all correct.
And predominantly heteromorph ammonites that
Yeah, the
it usually
Scaphites
preserved in
and
like
yeah.
a pearly essence.
Yes, so I have brought some finds to show you. So I think one of the questions was, what's some of your favourite ammonites and fossils that
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
found?
Favorite ammonites or favorite
Yeah,
fossils.
so I've
Yeah.
got a variety. So I've got some of my favourites. Obviously, I'm a collector, so I have lots of favourites.
I can see quite a few of them behind you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they don't stay in the collection if they're not a favourite. So unless they're
Well,
unusual.
I have a rule myself that as long as I find it myself,
Yeah,
I can keep it.
yeah, yeah.
It might not be the best thing,
No,
but it might have an interesting story behind it, or the way I found it, or it's got something interesting that I think is interesting. But it might not be the biggest thing.
well, yeah,
But
yeah,
I've got to, if I found it myself, I can keep it myself.
yeah. No, absolutely. Very similar to myself. So the first one is a fairly recent find, and it's quite heavy. And I thought I'd show this one off because oh, you guys
Oh,
prepped
right.
it for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So
That's amazing.
and
So,
it
for those who are actually listening to the podcast and can't see this, it's a very, very large fossil nautilus. Now, nautilus is still alive today in the Pacific Oceans, but this is actually a Jurassic example. And I believe that was found. You found that at Monmouth Beach
yeah,
down in Dorset.
Monmouth Beach. So I need you to let Marcus down gently because I found another two last time. So
So you want him to do those ones as well.
he might get them over the course of the next year or so to do. But
So obviously that wasn't found like that. Obviously,
yeah,
you found it in a big piece of rock,
yeah,
and all the rock has been chipped away around the actual fossil to make it looking like it does now. And that's really what you're paying for. You're paying somebody to do that work, to make it look like an object of art, I suppose.
yeah.
And it's a fantastic specimen, absolutely beautiful.
No, I do have a soft spot for nautiluses, and I do
Yeah,
quite
and
well at
that's a
Monmouth.
particularly big one.
Yeah.
How big do you think that would be? It's about eight,
Oh,
9 inches.
it's probably getting on for maybe 16 to 18 inch, something like that. So it's a decent
Right.
size
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
There are bigger.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are bigger, but this is a
Yeah.
good size. The problem is you've got to get them off the beach. So
Yes. Yeah.
the bigger the fossil, the bigger the piece of rock.
Yeah.
And
What's the heaviest thing you've ever carried off the beach? Do you think?
oh, I've carried actually another one of these nautiluses I carried off, which was the first one, which was in a big piece of rock, and I reckon that would be about 90 pounds, something like that,
Yeah.
in a normal rucksack. In fact, it won't fit in my rucksack. I had to borrow Marcus's actually
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it won't
Yeah.
fit in.
Yeah. I mean, I've carried off some of the large ammonites myself.
Yeah,
I think I once carried off an a dinosaur footprint, and when I got it back, it weighed 8.5 stone.
yeah, yeah. Well,
That hurt.
yeah,
That hurt a
definitely,
lot.
certainly 6+ stone. I think I've carried off a few times, so
Yeah,
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 quite easily. And yeah,
yeah,
at least Monmouth
yeah.
is not a long walk, which is good,
No, no,
and you don't have
no.
to go up a
No.
cliff.
Well,
Um,
luckily it's flat, but the shingle on the beach is very difficult to navigate, I find.
yeah, no, absolutely. And then yeah,
That was a nautilus that you found.
yeah.
So that's a
And and just for
pure
comparison,
Jurassic
so
nautilus.
the Monmouth Beach nautiluses tend to be a calcite shell, but they don't come in calcite fully. quite often, which I have got. Again, I said the Nautiluses are one of my favourite fossils. So for comparison, here's a couple of other
there's a couple
Nautiluses.
more fossil Nautilus, and you've got one that's black, and you've got one that's kind of like a creamy yellow color,
Yeah.
and the black one is probably a Yorkshire fossil.
Yeah, which is Holy Grail almost, other than a Freshella. So they don't come out very well, very often.
So these have been prepared out of the matrix, the surrounding rock, and then it's been polished because the calcite on the inside of the fossil can be polished to this high gloss finish. Yeah, fantastic fossil there.
And that was a
there's
Burton
one, and that's one from the Dorset again, from Burton Bradstock, I believe.
Yeah, it's Burton Bradstock. So interesting one with this one is it's partial calcite and partial stone chambers. So
yes, yeah.
I wonder if it was orientated this way, and it might be the other way up actually.
Right, okay,
That
I
bit
see
might
what
have
you
been
mean
sat in
now.
the water, and that bit might not. So you've got this variation
I think you can. I think it's called geopetal.
Geopetal, yeah, it is.
Yeah. So the actual, when you find a fossil and you see the calcite, it's the side that's got the most calcite on was the side that was resting on the seabed at the time, and that's the side to prepare rather than the other side.
Yeah, and
And
obviously it can go half and half as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then one other interesting one of my favourite ones actually, and this is obviously my videos. The last sort of year and a bit, I've been doing collaborations with a chap called Trevor, who 60 years of fossil hunting experience, and again, master prepsman, has been prepping fossils all his life.
If you look on YouTube, I believe he's got a few videos under Fossil Soft.
Yeah. So Fossil Soft, he's not really releasing so much himself now, but tends to put them out through my channel for a slightly bigger audience. But he's packing up soon. He's sort of just it's his last hurrah, I'm afraid. So enjoy him while you can. But this one actually is.
Wow! Look at that! Oh, look at that thing!
So
that's an ammonite that you found in Burton Bradstock, or and this is a very deep centered example of an ammonite. So and as has these protrudences, or we call them tubercules, that are on the side of the ammonite. And this is a very again, I believe that this one here's showing my expertise, I suppose now, is one called the Fossiliferous Matt.
Not quite. It's a labrum.
Oh no, not that particular
yeah, it's
species.
a labrum. This one, yeah. So, but it's again, they're quite similar, to be fair. But they are.
So it's still a Fossiliferous.
It is,
but it's just a different type of species.
There's not much difference in the species, to be fair.
No,
probably you can't.
I mean, you're looking at basically like, maybe 5 more ribs than the other one to show
you need to
different species.
Exactly. So we can forgive you for not quite getting it, because you need to.
Well,
you need to be eyeballing
it. It was actually a zonal fossil.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to tell you.
So this actually. So Trevor spent 70 hours.
Well, that was completely encasing rock.
Yeah,
and you can see now how many hours that would have. There would have been 10 plus hours in that easily. To get that out of the rock and preserve all the spines as well.
He spent 70 hours on this.
70 hours. 70 hours. Wow. That is, that's a lot.
Putting all the spines back. Doing a double-sided prep. The calcite was paper thin, so he's had to be careful to go through. So he's done a fantastic
job that is. And what a lot of people think is that's just been stuck on the rock, but it's not. The actual base is actually the original rock that's been sculptured to make it look like it's just sat on there. It's not been stuck on the rock.
All that was showing was a couple of spines, and I'd knocked the cap off badly. So he's had to glue it all back together and then re-prep the whole thing out. So some amazing. Wow. And one of the things I don't do is prep particularly. I'll have a little go, but again, this hobby is what you want it to be. If you don't want to do prep, you don't have to do it. I'm not very good at it. I don't have the patience or I can do it a little bit, but it doesn't
I think
I don't enjoy it.
yeah, I mean, I quite enjoy it because I find it quite I mean, I don't obviously I don't do a lot of it these days, as you know, um, but I find it very therapeutic myself. And I think sometimes, yeah, you've got to have a lot of patience. You've got to have the right tools to do the prepping, and but also I think some of the best preparators I know have got an artistic flair
Oh, absolutely,
as
yeah.
well.
You've got to have an eye for
Because
how
you've
you're
not
going to
only just
present
got to
it.
get the fossil out of the rock, but you've got to make it so that it's presentable and you can put it on the mantelpiece um, and not every fossil can do that. But sometimes it's like when I was prepping it, you kind of like you find it's a bit like writer's block. You know, you get something and you're working on it, you just can't get on with it. You can't get on with it at all. So you put it down, you go to another one, you prep that up, and then like a week or two later, you come back to the one you found and you're struggling with it, and suddenly you think, well, actually, if I did this and I did that and I prepped it here and I prepped it there, and then suddenly you find that it's probably one of your best specimens you've ever prepped. It's a
Yeah,
bit, yeah, it's a bit like that.
definitely. I think you get your functional preparators who can clean a fossil really well, but then you get the people who've got that artistic flair, can look at a piece of rock and go, "That's going to look like this, and that's how
Yeah,
I want it to be."
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I think that's part of my problem. I'm not very good at that. Give me a big block and a hammer and a few nice pointy chisels or whatever, and I
yeah.
can extract stuff and go like, "Yeah, I've got that." But when it comes to making
But
stuff
but
looks
but but
nice,
behind you, you've got some fabulous fossils that you found, and yeah, sure, you've had to ask other people to do that preparation for you, but looking behind you, it's a vast collection. I have to say, probably one of the best collections that I've
well,
seen for a
I've
long
been
while.
very lucky in that you guys have done quite a lot of stuff for me over the years,
Yeah, yeah,
plus a few other
yeah,
preparators as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
and again, you can't. I mean, I've got to the stage now where it's got to be interesting for me to want to prep it.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
keep going to new
yeah,
locations, so everything's interesting. So it doesn't stop in a way, and you never know what something's going to turn out like until actually someone gets a pen and has a go at it.
yeah,
Because sometimes
yeah,
the scrappiest thing you think, oh, that's never going to do anything, and it comes back
yeah,
and you're like, oh, wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, have you got any advice for beginners when they're starting
um,
out fossil collecting
yeah.
or
So advice for beginners is one, certainly coastal collecting, don't underestimate how dangerous it is. So there are
yes,
safe places you can go, but there are also dangerous places.
yes,
Always do your homework. Look at the tide times. Be careful with the cliffs. Respect the rules. Again, it's all about responsible collecting. There are plenty of
absolutely,
fossils on the
yeah,
beaches,
yeah,
but again, you've got to learn bit by bit. So it took me quite a few years before I started making videos, um, because you've got to learn the basics of how to fossil collect, and you do pick up, where you might find stuff. So yeah, second one is get on the beach because you're not going to find them in your armchair looking at other people's
no,
videos and pictures.
no, no,
Use them as inspiration.
yeah,
I think a lot of people look and go, "Oh, all the fossils are gone," or all that kind of stuff. Well, no, they're there all the time. And
yeah, yeah,
actually,
yeah,
if you want to
yeah,
find fossils, get yourself on a beach. They are there. Uh,
absolutely,
9 times out of 10, when I go to a beach, I'll find something. 9 times out of 10, if not a bit more, to be honest, I find something reasonably good. Again, that comes with experience. The first 10 or 15 trips to the coast, I don't think I found hardly anything, bits and pieces and what have you. But it's all that time on the beach, which gives you experience. Then you also get to talk to people, and people are fantastic at helping
yeah,
each other
yeah,
around knowledge, where to look, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's why I would say be safe.
yeah. Do your homework
Yeah,
before you go out, and get yourself out there. And the more times you can go out, the more pebbles you. A wise man once told me, the more pebbles you turn over, the more fossils you're going to find.
That's it. Be curious, look at some, and again, it's that look at stuff, and if it's not right, think, oh, that's different. I'll pick it up, have a look at it. That's what you've got to do. I know certainly the first time you go to any new location, you quite often don't find anything. You're very lucky if you find
Yeah,
something, and that's
yeah,
even true
yeah,
for experienced collectors. Yeah, we
yeah,
might know a bit more about what to look for, but a new
yeah,
location brings new challenges.
yeah,
So you've got to have your hammer out. You've got to be ready to tap different types of rock. Yeah, you've got your idea. It might be a shelly block. It might have some sort of giveaway signs, but quite often it doesn't. It's a matter of trial and error to go, like, unless someone can tell you what exactly to look for. It's a case of, right, okay, I'm going to give this a try. No, nothing in that. And the 20th rock, you might, oh, hang on a minute, something in there.
absolutely,
Right, I know
absolutely.
to keep looking
I
for that.
mean, that's the great thing about what you do now. I mean, back in the day, you just had to go on the beach and start whacking every rocks and go. Well, there wasn't anything in this one, but there was one in this one, this type of rock, that kind of color. Oh, here's another one. I found another one in that type of rock. Oh, right, okay. So these are the types of rocks we're looking at to find the fossils in. Those ones over there, they don't contain anything.
It's why
And that's
the
it's kind
fossil
of like,
walks are
trial
so
and
good.
error, isn't it?
Yeah, it's why the fossil walks are so good. I know you guys offer fossil
Yeah,
walks, and people like
yeah,
Mark Kemp offer fossil walks.
yeah,
And you can't beat local knowledge. As an experienced collector in Yorkshire, I'm quite happy to let if people come visiting, I quite often show them bits and pieces if they're coming over from other countries, and again, they have their patches, and that's the
yeah,
opportunity to share knowledge.
yeah, yeah,
If you're a new person, again, if you want to bypass that learning period of going out on the beach at a new location, employ an expert, because quite often they'll show you how to find stuff, what to look for, and it'll save you a lot of time. So yeah, local knowledge is definitely key. Not that everybody knows everything, because you'll go with one walk, you'll probably learn something totally different if you go with somebody else. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, yeah, 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 I always say to people, if going out fossil collecting, don't go on your own anyway.
yeah,
The safety side of it anyway.
yeah.
So, and if you can buddy up with somebody, that's even better. Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky in getting to know a lot of people that did give me a lot of knowledge in the past as well, particularly with Dorset.
Well,
And
that's it.
so,
When you go to a
yeah,
new location, there's nothing like going en masse and having lots of eyes, because
yeah,
again,
yeah,
that
yeah,
means you can come back later on with that knowledge, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
more focused
And
collecting.
there's so much accessible information out there on the internet now.
Absolutely.
Not well. I mean, just looking at your social media and your videos. I mean, you've gone to all these different locations, and it shows you what you're going to be looking for, what type of equipment you need to take, and the likelihood of finding anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely. Yeah, and there's others. There's not just me. People like DJ Fossils get up. They get all over the place. If you just look on YouTube, you find plenty of videos. Watch a selection. That's the thing,
yeah,
because
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
will bring a different insight, different perspective to a certain
yeah,
location. Just because
yeah.
I've been there doesn't mean that I knew what I was looking for. I might have an idea and I might have found something, but that could be just because I was very lucky on that day. So yeah, I'll always have a look at a few, and you'll get an idea then what you're looking for. It's part of doing your homework, doing your research, and then when you
Absolutely,
go, you've got more
absolutely.
chance of finding something. It's unlikely, but not impossible, that
Yeah,
fossil is going to be waiting for you 2 yards down the beach, has happened. But it's more than likely it's the further away places where people don't go as often where you're going to find the finds.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you've got to be prepared to put some steps in, have a good walk. As long as you've done your homework with the tide times, everything, you can get rewarded. But again, it depends how fit you are. Some locations on the Yorkshire coast do require a lot of fitness. I've done 30,000 steps plus some days, which is about 15 miles over and up and
yeah,
down
yeah,
rocky terrain. That's not for everybody. So Dorset's a bit of a doddle afterwards, apart from that shingle. That
yeah.
walk to
No, the shingle always gets me.
Charmouth
I
to
tell you.
Golden Cap.
Yeah, the shingle always gets me, that bit. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Right, looking ahead, Matt, what's next for you? You said you might be going over to France
Yep.
for a
So
video, and
yeah, so the next videos, when they come out, will be from France. There's a couple of Dorset videos to land, including the Nautilus. video showing this one off. So hopefully that'll be out by the time you put this one out. And yeah, so then it's French fossil hunting. So we'll probably do Vache Noire. We've got a couple of days in this quarry, and we've got a trip possibly to Le Havre, which is mainly Cretaceous, but interesting for its again for its nautilus, it's Cyanotoceros nautiluses. So yeah, again it'd be interesting to see. So whether we get to all the locations as planned, we'll see. Things may change. We might not get to Le Havre. We may end up going to Vache Noire if the conditions are better, and taking advantage of that last limited time. But again, we're meeting up with a few contacts that we've made over there over time. Again, hopefully that'll lead to bigger and better things. I'd love to get into some of the other classic sites in France. And again, it's all paleontological groups that they have their own group, the quarry. So, that's my offer to people is I'm quite happy to show you the Yorkshire coast. I know some of my friends will be quite happy to show you Charmouth. If we can get into a quarry. So, again, it's not like we're going to be there every day. It's going to be a special event, but I'd love to get into places like Lafarge, Belmont. There's some fantastic stuff from there. There's so many sites in France, and it's just making those contacts to be able to try and get into some of the more interesting ones over there. So, yeah.
Okay, so quick fire round.
Okay.
One word answers if possible, but obviously we'll
try my best.
You've seen this bit before anyway on the other episodes. Okay, but different questions, or maybe not. Here we go. So, ammonite or vertebrate? And I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is going to be.
Ammonites. I like my ammonites.
Yeah, ammonite. Your favourite fossil hunting location, but we've already done that one, haven't we? Which was Burton Bradstock.
Probably Burton at the moment. I mean, it changes, but yeah, Burton at the moment. Yeah, depends what's where you find it.
Best day you've ever had fossil hunting?
Oh, probably Burton actually. When I did get down there, probably about 2 weeks after a fall, and it's the day I actually cracked the Trewelly bed to work out whereabouts it was and what to look for. And yeah, it was an hard day, but I had some fantastic specimens which are all over on this bottom shelf here.
So mainly Parkinsonias
Parkes, Strigoceros, some Ammonites.
It's quite a condensed sequence.
But there is lots in it
that contains a lot of different types of.
So that's probably when you crack, because I'd been a few times and not really found much, and then suddenly it's like, right, I know what to look for now. When you crack a location, it's like, I know. That's always a good day. So probably I would say I've done that a few times in different places, but probably that was the best one.
Yeah. Well, the children always want to know, Matt, what's your favourite dinosaur?
I'm going to disappoint the children because I don't really have one. Really?
No.
I'm not into dinosaurs that much. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Spinosaurus because it's nice and aquatic, and that I quite like the story that nobody realised it was an aquatic dinosaur until relatively recently.
I mean, they're always looking at the bones and making sure that they can fit the conceived theory on the bones, and for a long while, as we know, the bones of dinosaurs have all changed throughout history because we found some new evidence that links it to it's actually quadrupedal rather than actually upright. The thumb spike isn't a spike, it's actually a digit and all that kind of thing. That was to do with iguanodon.
I think for me it's a whole different world that I've not really ever got into. It is. I can see the interest, but for me, I think I stick to Ammonites.
I think everybody will be interested to know that my next podcast will be probably dinosaur related. So
that's fine. I'll still watch it, and then it'd be interesting. But again, it's a different world to me. There's still far too much for me to learn just on the invertebrate.
Absolutely.
It's huge, and that's the interest for me at the moment. Who knows? At some point, maybe I'll be interested in dinosaurs. But bone. Not that if I found a full ichthyosaur, I'd be quite happy. But
Well, we all would, wouldn't we?
They don't do it for me as much as a,
one that was only just enough to just big enough to fit in my rucksack.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Just nice enough to fit. Yeah, and a nice nodule. You can just see its snout poking out one end and tail other end. And I won't say no. I'll put it in bag. It's okay. I'll put it in bag. It's fine.
Well, this has been brilliant anyway, Matt. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been a great chatting to you. And if anybody wants to follow Matt, go and check out his YouTube channel, which is Fossiliferous Matt on YouTube, I believe.
Just Fossiliferous. I got the full domain. Yeah. Fossiliferous Matt on
as it says on your branded T-shirt.
It is. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Fossiliferous. But yeah. So YouTube Fossiliferous. I'm on Insta Fossiliferous UK because I couldn't get that one. And if you want me on Facebook, there is the page for Fossiliferous, or you can follow me as Fossiliferous Matt. So yeah, that's your options. I'm not doing TikTok. I'm too old. There you go.
Me too. Me too. But yeah, it's been a great episode. So thanks very much again, Matt. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a hell of a difference to us. And if you like what you see, please visit the channel. And don't forget to check out everything we do over at fossilsuk.com, from fossil sales to fossil hunting experiences. And until the next time, keep hunting, keep exploring, and who knows what you might find. Thanks very much.
Bye for now.